man don't know shit. I might not know shit, but I know enough. I might not know shit, but I know enough. You might call me dumb, but I have a lot of fun. Might not know shit, but I know enough. I might not. Hey gang, here it is. Season 2 is about to start. I know it's been a long time. A lot of things have happened since the last time we spoke, but man, I am excited for this. Now, I figured it was appropriate to pick up our friend Paul Gott from the Ripcordz, who was on season 1 as well, in the band touring van. And I mean, the first episode ever was done in this van, and that was with Dave Cooper of the Planet Smashers. And I like this format. It's interesting, you know. Some of my best discussions have happened in bands. I mean, in band vans, you know. And look who it is, Mr. Paul Gott. How you doing, brother?
Okay.
Welcome to the touring van.
Oh, why, thank you.
I was just saying how this is appropriate because the first episode ever was done with Dave Cooper in this van.
Ooh.
Yeah, and now I took a long break, and this is the start of season 2. And you are number 1, brother.
Number 1. I've been called that before. And number 2 a couple of times.
That's it, exactly.
So, there you go.
Yeah, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yeah, right on. Hey,
this is such a touring van.
Last time I saw you, you gave me a record, so here's a brand new record for you. Oh. Yeah, it just came out 2 weeks ago.
That is so cool. Well,
yeah.
I actually brought you 2.
Oh, sweet.
We got Punk Canada Volume 1 and Punk Canada Volume 2.
Amazing. That's super awesome.
I've been busy.
Right? He has been busy. And one of the things you've been busy with, which I find super cool, and you know, another reason why I thought it was cool to do this in the van, is on your website, right? I think it's on the Instagram one. You have the tour tips, and you've done over like 200 of them now, and they're most entertaining.
Oh, thank you.
You know, and as you can see, one of the tour tips should probably be clean up the van before you pick up Paul Gott.
Actually, it doesn't quite say that, but one of them is, I think, you have to like empty out the remember, you're going to be living in your van for a month, so you got to treat it even nicer than you do your apartment. So I'd hate to see your apartment. That's all I can say.
I got you there. I mean, it's funny. We got home from tour. You know how it is, right? You get home, it's like it's usually 11 or midnight or something, late at night, and you're like, oh, we'll empty out the van, clean it up. Yeah, right. By the time you get home after a 12-hour drive from Thunder Bay, which is like way longer than that, or wherever it is you're coming from, the last thing you're going to do is actually clean up on the spot. And then you always say you're going to get around to it, end up cleaning it up before you leave on the next tour, right? That's basically how it works, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like we've been now we're in our segment of like weekend warrioring it. I'm not sure if that's an actual.
I think it is weekend warriors.
Yeah, weekend warrioring it. So anyway, we're going out every 2 weeks. So like that's when just leave all of merch and stuff in the van, the tour van, which happens to be a PT Cruiser. And then just like kind of restock it as we're leaving in the next 2 Fridays.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just did. Funny you should say Thunder Bay, because we just did Northern Ontario.
Is that at Black Pirates with owner?
We did, Black Pirates. We actually said, look, we'd already played the prairies. We booked, so we kind of booked our stuff. Weirdly, somebody booked some prairies for us, which I booked most of our stuff, but.
You do most of your own booking?
Yeah, almost exclusively, actually.
That's cool. Time-consuming, but cool.
Yeah, you kind of forget how time-consuming it was until I did it for like 30 shows this year, and it does take a long time. Better than the original one where you're making phone calls and no internet.
This is true.
Better. But
remember the list with just every venue around with their phone number beside it, cold calling everybody.
Yeah, I had a single sheet where I'm just like have all the information for the tours on this one single sheet of paper. And if we lose it, we're toast.
Well, that's it, right?
But we kind of we actually had a friend booked the 1 week in the prairies, and then kind of realized, okay, so we got like Quebec, Ontario, the Maritimes done. We got the prairies, and then we're skipping the West Coast, and we're skipping Northern Ontario again. Mm-hmm. So we're just like, okay, that's it. We booked like just the West Coast thing, so we just flew out and did like 3 or 4 shows. Vancouver Island, and then last weekend, just before we started, heavy.
That's right. Sorry, there's a little blip there. It happens. But yeah, weekend worrying. sometimes I would even do it like, usually it's by accident, as if like you have a weekend and one show falls through, and you end up doing all this driving just for one show. That's the worst. But honestly, 3-day weekends, I got no problem with that at all. I kind of like it. We've been doing a bunch of those lately as well.
Yeah, I think going to Thunder Bay might have been overdoing it just a tiny bit.
It's quite the drive, and it's one of those drives you don't really want to do late at night, just because of the wildlife and everything up there, right?
Oh yeah. Well, we've kind of got this thing now. We just don't drive at night anymore.
Yeah.
I just like I'm the driver most of the time. Like how tiring was it going out to Thunder Bay? Well, we actually had Josh, our drummer, actually did one of the days of driving. But normally I do all the driving, and I like driving. I get into the zen of driving, and just like thinking about stuff. Don't have music on, I'm just like motoring. I have a really well rested rhythm section because they're just asleep the entire time.
That's it.
And but yeah, I think even you can overdo zen.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. It's cool that you mentioned the quiet time too. Like, everybody always thinks in the van you're always blasting music and stuff. But I mean, our drives are often 12 hours long. So it's like a little bit of both. I find podcasts these days kind of like really pass the time well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm not that technically sophisticated. I can still barely use the camera on my phone. So.
That's
why I
wild.
haven't got my podcasting going yet.
It's funny. I got a tour tip for you.
Yeah.
All right, and we're doing it right now as we speak. Before you leave on tour, drive around the town for at least half an hour.
Okay.
Especially if the van has been resting or sitting for a while, right? Like I was almost late to pick you up because I noticed one of my tires was a little low. It's all those types of things because vans don't like to sit that long, right?
Yeah.
When they're not moving, brakes especially and stuff like that. Everything kind of moves around, So this year I've been following you as well. Like with the tour, and you guys are like very active these days.
Yeah. Yep. It's been for the longest time. Like we stopped touring in doing the big tours in 2007 because single dad taking care of kid.
Yeah.
And I had him 1 week on, 1 week off with my ex. So couldn't do more than a week at a time, and even then it was kind of iffy. So we stopped doing that. Now he's 19. He's in university. He's more than happy for me not to be at home. So I'm heading out touring, and now it's our bass player and drummer who kind of have restrictions. So we're working around those, but certainly we've got a lot more possibilities. So we're just taking them as much as we can now.
I saw your post on the internet. The 2 albums Paul gave me were Punk Canada, this volume 2 and volume 1. That's like you have 2 volumes so far, right?
Yep. Working on number 3.
Really?
Yep. Number 3's all booked actually. We're looking for songs and
shit.
stuff.
Fast Food Fairies, Day Glow Abortions, all kinds of people on there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Somebody contacted us and said that this band we knew we used to play with back in the day a lot. The Wet Spots from Hamilton. They're like great fun band, terrific guys. And so somebody contacted us, said that, one of them was having health problems and they were thinking about putting together a benefit compilation for him, and I said, cool, yeah, for sure, we'll do something. So we were heading into the studio like a week later, and we just learned a song, and I went into the studio, recorded it, and then the comp never happened. So we had this song, and it was like for this great old Canadian band that some people knew and a lot of people didn't. And so I was like, okay, well, what the hell do I do with this? And then it was like, so I started phoning bands I know from other cities and saying, hey, got this idea, why not covering bands from the 20th century, current bands covering older bands.
That's cool.
And I was just actually sort of, it's more like, do you think this concept would work? And like everybody said, yeah, I'm in. And I'm like, oh, okay. So before I knew it, number 1 was pretty much booked.
It goes faster. I mean, a guy like you as well, though. I mean, you've been across, this country so countless times, right? And you're very. One thing I really appreciate you, whether we're talking about the tour tips thing, which it's so worth seeing, by the way. I shared them with my band, and we have a group chat. You know what I mean? Actually, one of the smartest moves, we separated our chats. One is calendar only, and the other is group chat, because you lose your information through all the silliness, right? But You know, between the compilations, you're always a forerunner of like the whole Canada punk rock scene. I mean, you've given seminars on it before as well, you know? I find it super cool, so I'm not surprised at all. But I love the idea of compilations, and the fact that you go in to record just one song, I love that. You know, when I started up the band, actually, I was really thinking that that's something I want to do, is just record one song at a time as opposed to whole albums. There's something so cool about that, you know? Especially, well, that's actually why I called it K-Man45s originally. Because I thought of just recording 2 songs at a time, 45s. But then that doesn't fly in the business sense of things sometimes, you know, I mean, like just financially even. But it was the original idea.
Well, it's, you know, it actually has turned into like just so much fun, and yeah, it's supporting the scene. It's, you know, the whole idea is like 16 bands from 16 cities too. Right. So all the bands pay for the pressing themselves, but they get more than enough. They should be able to actually double their money on sales, even selling it cheap. And the idea is that they, so people from Halifax may not have heard of this band from, you know, from Edmonton or from Winnipeg, or and we've got bands from this time around from Humboldt and Thunder Bay, and like trying to get, and Audiovisual is from
Vankleek, Ontario.
Vankleek, that's it. And so like there's all these, so everybody's can sell in their own neighborhood without competition, but also you're promoting 15 other bands that are current, and you're promoting 16 bands, a lot of whom also haven't been heard of, you know? So it's, the whole idea is everybody gets to know a lot about the Canadian punk scene.
That, and there's probably some great side effects, for instance, booking.
Yeah.
You know, if bands are starting out or, you know, want to hook up with other bands, they don't know everybody yet at that point, you know, and call up one of the bands that they shared on a comp and get a show together, you know, perhaps in both towns and all that kind of stuff.
That's very much, you know, part of the idea is like everybody's encouraged to talk to everybody else. And a lot of bands like, we have Shit Happens and the Shit Talkers, a lot of shit going on there, but who really actively did use the connections from the albums to get to meet other bands and share shows, and but I mean more than just those 2 bands, but it happened just a lot.
It's cool that the whole sense of community that you know, you've been a big part of, and constantly, it seems to me anyway, that you're working on it, because I wonder, like some scenes, like for instance in the States right now, in the ska scene, it's really become community again, but I don't see it necessarily as much here at the moment. But back in the day, it was always stuff like that, right? People bringing, you know, together and friends doing shows together and all that kind of thing. I wonder if it's a bit more individual these days or not, you know? I'm not really sure, but I do like the concept, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so, I just figure, I mean, there's a lot of people who get really possessive of their own territory, which is so weird, because to me it's one of the things we do from the Punk Canada site, which is where the Punk Canada compilations come from, is we publish every month, we publish the promoters list of all of Canadian punk promoters, and it's just up there for everybody to use, because we figure the more bands that are using these promoters and the more bands that go out and can tour, the stronger the scene becomes.
Absolutely.
Why sort of try and grab onto your own information? Like, put it out there.
I wonder if people realize how valuable that is, just a list like that. Like back in the day, you know, we're pre-internet stuff, people were like looking for the list, you know, whether it's like radio stations that might play you or promoters and stuff like that, right? But I mean, that was valuable, and you'd see people that don't want to share all their lists. Then you have other people that were openly sharing it, right? Well, that was a real thing.
That's funny, because I did back in the old paper, you know, pre-internet days, I did a cross Canada tour guide, and it was like for $5. He sent me $5, and I'd photocopy this thing and mail it out to you.
Fantastic.
And it was like all connections that, you know, we started with all the connections that we had, and then as other people sort of came on board, we'd add their connections to it. So there's, you know, again, it was just a cross Canada touring guide, which had promoters and where the cool record stores are and what the best, you know, if there's any radio stations. So it's all kind of based around Book Your Own Fucking Life from Maximum Rock and Roll, but it was an actual working list as opposed to Maximum Rock and Rolls, which was a lot of wannabes.
Just look where we're driving by right now. You guys can't see it on the camera right now, but Paul, where are we driving by right now?
We are driving by Fatale, which is which has trackside, which is where we're playing in like 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 'cause we're
What a
always playing
coincidence.
in Trackside.
The amount of graffiti here, holy shit.
Yeah, and like coolest, I can genuinely say coolest place in North America to play.
That's wild, eh? I mean, it's changed so much, that whole Fatale building. There's all kinds of lots there. And I mean, it's went through different phases and generations. There used to be a time where the people living there would want to be as underground as possible, or as possible, and not let anybody talk about the place, to now where they're it's basically a venue now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a venue. Is it a bar?
Yeah, well, officially, no.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about it.
But it's, basically, you go in and you can bring your own beer, and it's got a stage set up and a soundboard, and it's got like a balcony and like the whole shebang. It's just like the coolest place ever. And also, we even recorded a couple of songs, so they put it on a promo for. They're putting a video together to promo the place, and it'll be our songs.
Places like that, they're so valuable. Yeah, I mean, really, way more than I can even make it seem to our listeners and stuff, because like punk rock at the end of the day, I mean, when it started and stuff, it was all small communities, right? I mean, the whole philosophy here is so freaking punk rock. I love it.
Yeah, well, that's it. For the longest time, we didn't really have underground venues in Montreal. They sort of pop up and go away very quickly, which was unfortunate. But now, for the last, 10 years, we've had different places at Fatale. Right now it's called Trackside, but we had Fatale at Fatale, and we had the Death House.
That's right. Yeah.
So all these venues where it was like pretty much anybody could go in and play, and you bring your own people, and like people who don't go to normal clubs and don't want to spend $5 on a beer even. It's like it's $3 on a beer, or it's bring your own beer actually.
Yeah.
So it's like best way to do it.
It's been interesting, like just talking about that end of the finances right now. I find since the pandemic, man, it's like the whole game financially as well is kind of resetting and finance place. For a while I thought promoters were paying well, then it kind of slacked off, because you could tell that they kind of were having troubles too, resetting and stuff like that. I was just actually thinking about that today when I see different contracts around, But no, it's interesting. I mean, like in Montreal right now, how many venues have closed down since the last time we spoke?
Yeah.
It's a real thing,
And then we were really worried actually when the pandemic hit, and we were like, okay, so there's no shows, and you need young people to come into the scene to renew it and to sort of give you new energy, and just like, okay, now there's this whole generation that's growing up without shows for like 2 years.
Well, that's it. I think it was, Sean Ryan, right? My buddy Sean, he plays with the Mahones, plays bass.
Oh, okay.
Riot, right? He also plays in Riot.
Riot,
He's a good buddy. He was telling me.
Think of him as Sean.
I know, right? But he was telling me at one point during the pandemic that he was thinking that after pandemic, with so many venues closing down and stuff, that it might be kind of a return to grassroots punk rock, like finding venues, old restaurants to do shows in and stuff like that, like getting back into that mode, just because of the situation we're in. And you know what, in a weird kind of way, he might have been a bit right.
Though also, I found that once we came out, we did lose some venues, but others always seemed to sort of pop up and replace them. And like some of the going into the pandemic, there were some shows that were great, some that were not so good, and a lot of people I think just weren't going. The older punks weren't going to shows anymore. It was just like, been there, done that.
Yeah.
And then I think they had 2 years of not going to shows, and then all the shows we had, after the pandemic, so amazing.
Yeah, it's wild. You felt it too in the energy as well.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Just so many people, and so happy to be there, and so happy to be out there.
I noticed the same thing because. Right, remember like kind of midway in the pandemic, there was like 3 weeks that opened up and then it all closed down again.
Yeah.
Well, we had it pre-planned. We managed to tour all of Canada within that little gap. We had talked to all the bookers and promoters and venues everywhere, and kind of pressed one button, it was all booked in an instant type thing. But I'm not sure if we were the first ones to get fully across, or if it was Belvedere, because I would see their posters everywhere as well. No. Actually, I messaged them the other day sharing that in the van. We kept thinking, were we the first to cross, or was it Belvedere? It wasn't clear, But the energy, it was so weird because, like, you'd go to the places where, the pandemic never existed, or the other places where it's, 1/3 capacity, everybody sitting down with masks and all that, but in either setting, you really felt the energy. Like it was much needed, you know?
I remember we played a couple of shows, you know, during that time, and we went up to Quebec City and we played in the, and they'd set up like the bar is like the normal type bar.
Yeah.
But it was like they set it up with all sorts of chairs everywhere.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And then by the time the show started, everybody pushed the chairs to the back of the club, and it's just like, no, screw it, we're just gonna like do what we normally do. And the funny thing there is, so I got to tell my joke, which was, hey, it's chairs are just like old punks, all of them at the back of the room.
That's funny. Just want to double check something here. All good. Yes. I always get worried about that. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I did a podcast and it didn't record. Then having to apologize to the guests. It's never actually happened, but I think about this all the time. Yeah. It's kind of weird. It's stressful.
That's my favorite nightmare. In fact, you know, my nightmare all the time is that we're somewhere and we have a show the next night, and I just realize we don't have enough time to drive there.
Yes.
Like no matter even if we drove straight, we'd be there like 4 hours after the show was ending. Or I'm on stage and like the bass player's just disappeared and the guitar won't tune, and it's all those nightmares are like band related. And then I realized that when COVID was happening, that we hadn't played shows in such a long time that my nightmares stopped being band nightmares.
Right.
Okay, we've got to get back on stage. If I'm no longer having band nightmares, then we're really too far out.
But it's kind of cool because you think of these things, but it's also, you know, we're talking about the tour tips before.
Yeah.
You know, from those two, it's always like, okay, you know, you do everything in your, you know, like with the power that you have to make sure they don't happen, but they're still gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
But you're right about the not paying attention to how far one gig is from the other. You know, we fucked up here and there. We've had to leave a show, you know, at 2 a.m. after finishing playing to start the drive to get to the next one on time, you know, because you didn't realize that what did they really have a special event and they want us to play at 2 p.m. because something was happening where you played there 100 times. It's always at 10, you know.
that was my see. I occasionally you tell a joke that you want to tell, and sometimes most of the time you're like, oh, I should have said that. But one of my other favorite ones is we were playing Langley, BC, so just outside of Vancouver, with Gott. Actually, they're the ones who set it up.
Oh, cool.
We used to play with them a lot back in like 93, 94. And so they set up the show in Langley, and 10 Days Late we're playing as well. Great female band, all-female band.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a stacked lineup. And so we got there, and it was like, the show started at 2 in the afternoon. It was an all-ager, but 10 Days Late didn't realize that. So like, show starts and they're still not there, and it's pre everything. So it was like no way to get a hold of them. So we're like, well, hope they turn up. But anyway, so around 5 o'clock they turn up, which is still plenty of time for the show because it's a long show. And then we, so they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize it was like a daytime show. And I said, don't worry about it. You're 9 days and 21 hours early. So I,
yeah, man,
got to sell my line.
You know, you have the compilations going on right now. The Punk Canada website, it's a Facebook page, right? Punk Canada.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great. And I have looked at different, venues and promoters and all that. I have. I'm like, what's going on here right now? I always try to keep my, my eye on everything. But it's so helpful, man. It really is. I like it because it's not like just stuff that you're throwing out there to have content or whatever. It's actually very useful stuff,
In fact, we got into a fight with some punks who said we have too many rules. Well, screw it. There's I always kind of just look at it. I look at the internet and kind of go, okay, if you want to be, post your stupid fucking memes or prove how punk you are compared to everybody else, there's lots of places to do that on the internet. Like the Facebook page, it's all about bands promoting themselves. Mm-hmm. So gigs, new releases, if anybody else wants to talk about the bands, but you have to be talking about the bands, not just punk rock in general, and not bands from out of Canada. It's not a place where Canadians discover other bands. It's where anybody can discover Canadian bands. And that's the whole point to it. So
and much needed.
Yeah, and that's it's supposed to be like a one-stop shopping for that, with the acknowledgement that if you want to do other punk stuff, we're not saying this is the best. We're saying just that's our raison d'etre. So it's like, you want to learn about Canadian punk bands, this is where you do it.
It's wonderful because lately I have been thinking. I'm very curious to know if you've ever thought about this too. You know how there's all kinds of fantastic festivals all over Canada, right? And American bands are often hired, are often the headliners. Maybe then Canadian bands will be at the bottom of the list and stuff. So it's very hard for Canadian bands to actually get bigger. It is part of my thinking. I don't know exactly how I feel about it. Like, I'm not a person that thinks black and white either. You know what I mean? Because I understand like festivals want to, get some headliners that draw people. But I've always found like it's rare that you have a Canadian headliner. Is it because they're bigger or smaller or known? But they're headlining all the American shows and getting their names out there and getting big and stuff like that. I've been thinking a lot about it, how difficult it is for Canadian bands to grow to a level that opens bigger doors for them. I mean, I was very vague on that, but I mean, like, it's almost like we always look up to American bands, when the talent level, is here as well.
Well, you see, I always think Canadian bands are better, like every A to Z, simply because it's really hard. I mean, I guess if you're in Southern Ontario, you can get away with like not doing a heck of a lot in traveling and stuff. But anybody else in the country, you want to be a band and do more than play to your relatives, you are going to have to like get a van, practice, do a set, release some material, and hit the road, and hit a long road.
That's it.
And so it's like, you really have to have the talent and the gumption and the energy to be able to do that. So to me, it's like there's maybe sort of northern China or Mongolia might have another place where you have that space between shows and that need to sort of put that amount of effort in, but you have to put a huge amount of effort to be a punk band in
I wonder
Canada.
if people really understand to what extreme what you say is true. Now, I'm very proud of this, but I also think I'm a fucking psycho for this, okay? We've done Canada, we've between 19 and 21 times, okay? But we're talking cross Canada, so it's basically Montreal to Victoria and back. The drives are insanely long. Sometimes you'll do it with an American band, and the shows might be good and all, but they're like, it's too crazy to do that drive, and then you get people like, you get tired of that, you fly out, do the West Coast thing, right, Paul? And fly back, because like the middle, I mean, it's psycho, especially when you're going west to east, because the drives are as long, but you're also losing an hour, and you're waking up at 7 after getting to the hotel at 2 a.m. if it's an early night, and to get there for sound check. Like, it's that crazy how much we drive.
We had a week off, like, remember I was telling you it was 1 week on, 1 week off. So I think it was 2016, we finally had like a week clear. And so we drove to Regina and back and played 6 shows in 6 days and drove 6,000 kilometers.
That's
just like, okay, that was kind of... And the problem was like driving back. You're driving back, and we went... we did Regina to Thunder Bay in a day. So not only was it a 12-hour drive, but we lost 2 hours to time zones.
Yeah,
we went through 2 friggin' time zones, and it's just like,
it's such a real thing, even cost-wise, right? Just pay for the gas and food, or to be in the van, or keep a vehicle running to be able to do that. I mean, it's absolutely psycho, and it's the wrong way to do it. It really is. Like I always said, it'd be way cooler to do just like north-south on the east side, or north-south on the west side. Makes more sense, but we do it anyway. You just fucking do it, and then you think to yourself, maybe somebody will think, hey, wow, it's cool, those guys never stop going back and forth. Probably, though, in reality, nobody even fucking noticed, you know what I mean?
No, I must say, like, we only did the States once and kind of went, so we've only done Canada, so 3,000 shows, 6 in the States, or 12 in the States, everything else in Canada. And I must say, we were talking to a guy in a band out west, the Blackjacks, out of Kamloops. Okay. And he said, and they would go down to the States all the time and do the circuit there. And he said, whenever I wear a Ripcordz shirt, it's like wearing a Canadian punk flag. And I was like, basically, everybody knows you're only in Canada and you're only doing it so that then they know we're from Canada, and it's just like, hey, you're from Canada, or and which I love. I think that to me is a proud moment.
Yeah, it's freaking wicked, man. 3,000 shows, eh?
Yeah.
You are a psycho.
Yeah. So we actually were going to call this tour the world's most idiotic tour. Is like we just like what I say. Like we drove out and back to Thunder Bay last weekend, or 2 weekends ago. But we'd also done the prairies already as far as Winnipeg, which is of course easy driving distance to Thunder Bay. But instead, we go all the way there and all the way back. It's way longer, and we did the prairies. We flew out, but we actually did like 6,000 kilometers in the prairies.
That's it.
And it's just like we've already done Fredericton, but now we're going to do the rest of the Maritimes in about a month. Mm-hmm. So we're going to pass by Fredericton, and we've already done. It's just like
it's crazy.
None
when
of
you
it
think
makes
about
any
it.
sense.
Every tour, because I calculate gas and mileage and all that, you have no choice, right? It's over 6,000 kilometers. Every single one. I mean, for how many shows? I find our tours used to be a bit longer. These days, maybe it's 20 shows. But like that's 6,000 kilometers. Like you go to Europe, you're driving. I remember we're on a tour with Faintest Idea from England, who I love. I was just talking to Danny Rascal the other day. Check them out. Their new stuff is fucking rocking, by the way. But I remember we're doing a drive. It's like one of the guys in his band was like, "Oh, it's a bit of a long one. It's a 3-hour drive today." I just bust out naturally laughing. I didn't even mean to. Just you know what I mean? Like 3 hours for us, it's cake, man. That's like okay. Maybe you're in the Rockies. Okay, that's nice. But yeah, it's something, eh?
Yeah, I played Cornwall last weekend, so and the guy said, maybe we can get you guys out again. I go, look, it's like to me, it's coming here is like going to the depth for to pick up some beer. It's like, yeah, sure, just ask us any time. It's like we don't have to be on tour to go, an hour and a half or 2 hours to a show. It's like we'll do that any day.
Even Ottawa, which is close, is longer than that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's nuts. What other shows you got coming up?
Where are we going? We got London and Hamilton in 2 weeks, and then after that we're doing Toronto and Kingston. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we got our Maritime Swing, and we got Fatale that we're playing. We got after the London and Hamilton stuff. Yeah. So and that's it. We're down to like 7 or 8 shows for the year. So
already it's like that period of time is booked right now. We're starting to look at booking 2024 already.
Yeah, exactly. And people are like contacting us. Hey, what will it take to get you out to Edmonton? And it's like, actually, at this point in time, we've kind of done that, been there, So, and we've booked every free weekend we got.
Yeah,
so it's I mean, I love it, but it's been a kind of exhausting year, but exhausting in the best sort of way.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, exhausting equals so many different things. Sometimes it equals being able to be calm after, right? You still teaching?
Yeah, actually, now I'm. I just got a new job title. Now I'm the director of the graduate diploma program at Journalism in Concordia University. Really? So I teach and I'm sort of in charge of this. So actually, just before I came here, I was talking to the editor of the Montreal Gazette, as we do this award ceremony with them once a year, and so just sort of coordinating that.
You always impress the hell out of me, brother. I love it. Well, listen, I'm going to take you home. I'm going to go get some food, and I can't tell you what a pleasure it is seeing you again, man.
Oh, man, it's always so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, before I go, guilty pleasure. What have you listened to that anybody would be surprised you listened to and enjoyed?
I
gotta make it hard on him,
Yeah, no, I mean, like, you know what? It's kind of a long-termish thing, but I like all sorts of punk, and that includes things that people normally don't like, or will make fun of, like the Green Days and the Offsprings of the world.
Yeah.
you know, like I wish Green Day would stop doing fucking ballads, but you know, I like their sort of heavier songs, their punk songs. And when my son was growing up, every day I'd go out in the car with him and drive around, you know, so he would go to sleep, you know, when he was like, you know, 2 or 3 years old.
I did that too. It works.
It works perfectly, but like you know, I was the dad who would like I'd have stuff on the radio, you know, punk rock music playing on the stereo in the car, and then he got out of punk, and he just like, he went to school and he was like listening to, well, everything Lady Gaga and all the stuff that all the kids at school were listening to. And then one day I was driving around, he was like 12 or 13, and he said, "Hey, what about that stuff you used to play for me?" And then I was like, yes, because I didn't even bring it up. It wasn't pushing it, wasn't anything. And I said, "Oh, I thought you'd kind of grown out of that." No, I really like that. So then I started again with things like Green Day and The Offspring and all those, you know, the poppy punk bands, and then think of them as gateway bands. And then we would bring on, now we'll bring the old school punk and the Sex Pistols and the Vibrators, and then it would be like, and the Dead Kennedys, and, you know, and sort of gradually just, and now he likes, you know, a ton of stuff. And he's still listening to it, and he's the only one of his friends who does.
I know you're proud of this. That's awesome.
so proud of it. And so, like, the more he liked that stuff, the more I liked it. So even you know, at first I was kind of like, it's not bad. I like that, and I'll let my friends make fun of me for liking kind of crappy pop punk, but I still do. Like, you know, and I like it probably even more than I used to.
I love it. Always hardcore and always on point. But check this out, guys. Punk Canada, Volume 1, Volume 2. We got amazing bands. We have Bats Out from out west. We have, who else do I know on here? Hard Charger, Motherfuckers. Ooh, I love that name.
Yeah, they're from Edmonton. Beta 58's from Kingston.
Okay.
Disruptor from Quebec City.
Bloody Hell.
Yeah, Follow-Ups from Halifax. Narnars from Victoria.
Cool. What's this band here? Oh, the Ripcordz are on there. I love it.
I finally got that Wet Spot song onto an album. So there you go.
Right on. But yeah, check it out. And the site, you got Dayglow abortions on here, Fast Food Fairies. You got all kinds of stuff on here, right? Oh, shit.
Yeah, Gerbia, Gag Order. Yeah. So Neighborhood Watch from Fredericton.
Oh, cool.
So many great, you know, and the nice thing about doing these things is I'm discovering new things, because a lot of times it's like, okay, I know 12 of the bands, and that's like, okay, and I need bands from other cities, so I actually do a little bit of research and then try and contact bands, and it's like, holy crap, look at what's in this scene, and then
you get deep into it, eh?
Yeah, it's kind of, I love discovering stuff, and then, you know, it's helping me discover stuff.
Absolutely. Punk Canada, check it out. And, you know, the Punk Canada website as well, or Facebook page, actually very useful. You can find all kinds of stuff there. Till then, peace out, everybody. You rock. Stay cool. Thanks, Paul. Boom! K-Man don't know shit. I might not know shit, but